Yeah, I couldn't. Apparently, nope. But they wanted me back here to get the room, so yeah.
I say move up and tell them. I'm nice like that.
Just put it on the desk.
Yep. I'm not sick, it's just nasal problems.
Right. We get some fresh water. Absolutely. Thanks, buddy.
Thank you for dressing up the Superboy. You know who you are.
Just before we begin, we'll take a quick show of hands. How many people have tickets for the photo session at 6 o'clock? Brilliant.
Well, that's actually why we lost the three.
So originally, when they gave us the time for this panel, it was before the pro wrestling panel. We were like, great, guys can collide and everything. And then they were like, you're going after the pro wrestling panel. You realise the Power Rangers photo op is right as we finish. So, oh.
That's a leg to chair.
Thank you. I know, right?
We know Tommy Oliver will do that.
We haven't started to fail in the Tommy Russian now.
It's my everyday life.
Fact.
Sure, we'll get into that later.
Welcome back. Thank you.
That's awesome.
Lately, I was just telling a couple people who were at the wrestling panel before they left. That ironically, go to the photo op with Power Rangers. We literally miss you guys. We miss doing this every year and having fun.
What's up?
Just out of curiosity, since this is Power Ranger things, have any of you talked with Johnny Young, Bosch, or any of the other ones downstairs?
Yes.
We met and talked to all of them, yes.
I was chatting with him yesterday.
Okay.
We have in fact taken a photo with him and posted him as the employee list all the time.
Because he is.
Because he is.
Okay.
Take that, Tommy Oliver.
Also, I do have one question about the history of Power Rangers.
We will get to questions when we actually. What do you guys just want to start?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it.
Then, when do we ever actually start on the time?
There's still people coming through the door.
We can always.
That didn't stop us with the wrestling fan.
Don't start because of me.
Oh god, why did I sit between these two? I regret that now. Too late!
We're opening.
I thought we were closing with them.
Oh, I'm not playing it. It's more for the fun.
How was what? I'm
Wasn't
only
here.
Unfortunately, the Power Ranger Q&A was at 12:30, and I didn't go to that because I was at the other wrestling panel.
me a tree more, bro, this bit.
Nice ears.
Alright, so, Mike, you're our moderator.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, hello, awesome con. No, I'm not doing the wrestling. No. Welcome to Power Rangers, Mighty Morphin and Beyond. We are a podcast called Voices from the Grid, where we actually torture ourselves by watching all the Power Rangers. So from the beginning, so you don't have to anymore.
Those seasons were really good.
Oh, the best. So I am, Brian, what do we call ourselves again?
Podcast on Good Rangers?
Yes.
Hey, Sasha.
Well, that's what we adapted ourselves from. That's the Japanese version.
Some of our podcasts have scripted intros where we tell little fun stories. We thought it would be fun to have a Sentai version of ourselves. Podcast on Hybrid Ranger.
And currently I am, well, because season 2 hasn't been released yet, I am the Green Ranger. This lovely young lady right here to my right is the Red Ranger, Sasha.
The one, the only, the free one, and the Red Ranger.
This fine gentleman who, if you were here for wrestling panel, you know him. He is the Black Ranger, Mr. Ben Taylor.
It's me, Ben Taylor, the Thinking Man's podcaster. Assuming that man is thinking if I ignore him, he'll go away.
I haven't taken the hang yet. Well, and of course, in a very fantastic season 1 of Billy cosplay, we have our Blue Ranger, Brian Massick.
Thank y'all for coming out.
Yeah.
So,
Beware, spoilers for every season of Power Rangers imaginable.
Just a quick hands up. Is everybody current on Dino Fury? Hands up if you're not. Put your hand down when you don't count. So we will try to keep Dino Fury spoilers to a minimum. But
I think you're the only one who Ryan are caught up, Mike and I are.
yeah.
That's okay. We're here to have fun and talk about the trauma we've all suffered by Power Rangers. I mean, the love we have for Power Rangers.
So, because we are a newer Power Rangers podcast, just to give you a little backstory, Brian and I are actually both day oneers to Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. We were like 5 or 6 years old when Mighty Morphin debuted in 1993. Sasha is carbon dated to Power Rangers.
So I was born in 1993, so I am as old as Power Rangers. So I know when all the anniversary seasons are coming up. But I actually watched Power Rangers for the first time in about 1996 or 1997 as a kid in Russia. So when I was talking to Walter and Austin, I mentioned that I actually didn't hear their real voices except for the Morphin calls. I have no idea what they sounded like except for those moments because I watched the show in Russian dub.
And then, Ben, I'm sorry, but a 9-hour car ride home from a convention in North Carolina is what got Ben to start watching about 18 months ago.
yeah, I didn't actually start watching Power Rangers till about 2 years ago. I'm 43. It all started because we were coming back from a convention, and I remember turning around to Mike and going, Mike,
Yeah?
now Zordon made the White Ranger, right?
Yeah.
How long did it take?
2 episodes?
Not like in universe. Like a day?
About maybe 24, 48 hours maybe.
Why did he stop making Rangers? Why the next time Rita looked through her telescope did she go, why are there 27 of them? And then there was a 9-hour car journey where we talked about nothing but Power Rangers, and I didn't understand a word of it. So I started watching it from the beginning.
Regret it yet?
No!
You sure?
I even survived Operation Overdrive.
Yeah, but you're stuck on Mega Force.
Yeah, but I can work through that one slowly.
Also, this is a audience-driven panel, so if anybody has questions, please
Or
feel-
opinions.
or opinions, please feel to ask them, state them. This panel's really for all.
Let's get these out of the way first. Wait, everyone's favorite Ranger and favorite season.
You can raise your hand. Yes, sir.
I'm in house.
Oh, you met us. Okay. Fine.
So, mine obviously through the rose-colored glasses, it's Mighty Morphin, and favorite ratings. Who's gonna do that? One of us had to do it. And actually, I actually really do love Adam Park, but because I'm not gonna steal from them, I'm gonna say Tommy Oliver so I can get booed later.
Boo. I have a lot of favorite rangers. It depends on like the season. Each season I usually have at least one ranger that I really, really love. But my bonus points go to SPD, to Rich Carson for being our only Jewish Power Ranger.
Your best season or favorite season? My favorite season is Last Week Rescue. My favorite season is Jungle. The season I think is best is Jungle. And my favorite ranger, is he invented or is he ranger? It's RJ.
You can count my points.
RJ.
Both. RJ's both.
But if it has to be a specific ranger, that's probably Task Force.
I was just waiting for you to say Park and Race because you do have a great love there.
I think I have a very heterosexual crush.
Brian, what about you?
Again, I have nostalgia for Mighty Morphin. However, more currently, as I've been working through the seasons, because I kind of stopped watching around Turbo when I was a kid, and so I've kind of been recently trying to play catch up. I've really started binge watching episodes of Jungle Fury, and I really like that. I also really like SPD. Undressed is my favorite. Undressed is my favorite ranger overall. But if I had to go overall in the franchise, and I kind of jump between Power Rangers and Super Sentai, my favorite ranger is probably Captain Marvelous.
I will say also, like, Time Force and In Space have a really soft spot in my heart. Yeah. Just so.
Yeah, I don't fool myself into thinking Last Week Rescue is the best season.
No, but
It's
you
definitely
still
my
love the
favorite
season.
season.
Alright, this
Alright,
one.
that's the easy stuff out of the way. Let's turn to you guys.
Yes, sir. Great.
What is your, or in your opinion, how do you feel your worst power,
Worst Power Ranger or worst season?
worst power ranger?
Oh, you just opened up a can of worms there, good sir.
Generally, emotions to the entire cast of Megaforce?
Yeah. Valid.
There's
The
a really good reason for
white
that.
guy from Samurai named Shiba?
That's not accurate or anything. I guess I don't know how you specifically label somebody the worst ranger. I think in order to be a Power Ranger, you have to have some, good qualities that make you a really good ranger. In order to be a good superhero. I would say for me, my least favorite, or one I really dislike, is probably Dax and Overdrive.
That's actually a way better answer. It's the entire Overdrive.
They're both good answers, let's leave it at
Because the
that.
others are only bad because of their acting. The Overdrive team just suck.
For me, it would probably be, I can't remember his name, but the Red Ranger and Samurai. He
That's
just-
it.
Jade Shiba.
Yeah, that guy.
Yeah, he always felt very flat to me.
Well, that's
watching
because he was one-dimensional.
Yeah, but he would probably be one the worst in my opinion.
Brian?
I'm not a huge fan of Troy from Megaforce, and then also, as we've been going through Mighty Morphin, again, I've got these nostalgia goggles on when I'm watching, and I was genuinely surprised how much, watching Mighty Morphin Season 2, I was just like, oh my god, Rocky sucks. I was like, what? I remember
But he likes to have fun.
I was like,
For
there's
those that don't remember, that's an actual name of an actual episode of Power Rangers called
Yeah.
Rocky Likes to Have Fun.
there's this episode straight up where the White Ranger and the Pink Ranger are tricked into arguing with each other, and Rocky's like, hold on, let's go fight or whatever. Putty's fighting, and he literally gets bodied and pushed away by a Putty. I'm like, did they just nerf Rocky? Oh, yeah.
He's also Well, when we get to the Turbo movie,
Yeah.
he's the guy that gets roundhouse kicked over the top rope of a boxing ring.
Oh my god, he gets $1 million
Poor
beard.
guy.
Actually, can I change my answer to the
Wait.
last time?
Sure, go for
Yeah,
it.
yes, you may.
Thomas Oliver!
Woo! Second.
That's a spicy take.
We're
We're
gonna
gonna
go
go to-
here, and then we'll go to you after.
Alright.
Yeah.
You guys remember the very first episode we ever watched?
Yeah,
Yes.
Day of the Dumpster.
Day of the Dumpster.
I vividly remember watching Day of the Dumpster on August 23rd, 1990.
I literally remember watching it before I went to
28.
school that morning and going, this is the greatest thing ever.
I think the first episode I ever actually watched might have been an episode of Turbo, but like, it didn't stick in my brain when it actually aired. It was an episode of Turbo. I can't remember which one, because it was like a lot of years ago. But like, I didn't really watch Power Rangers when it aired on TV. So the first one I watched, I know I watched an episode or two of Turbo when it was airing, but the first one I legitimately remember is this watch through I've been doing of like 20 odd seasons of Power Rangers. Yeah.
So for me, I think I have two answers for two different reasons. The first is Day of the Dumpster, because that was the first one, but I don't really remember the experience of watching it necessarily. What I do remember was when I came to America when I was about 9 years old. It was 2002, and Wild Force was airing. And I'm pointing to the guy dressed as the Silver Ranger, the Wolf Ranger from Wild Force.
Hey.
And I remember being very confused because I'm like, wait, these are different characters. Why are they on a weird floating island thing? But then you started watching, and you're like, oh, this is still good, even if it's different. And
Except for Princess.
except for the princess. And so it was that was the gateway Power Ranger season for my brother. Although he claims it was Ninja Storm, it really wasn't.
You had your answer, please.
Who would win the fight between Peter Repulsa and Shang Tsung from Mortal Kombat?
We're in the fight too.
Batman.
I never watched Mortal Kombat. I'm sorry. I know what it is. I didn't watch it. Stop mansplaining.
Like Akuma from Street
It's
Fighter
not
shows up.
okay.
It's like, what?
I don't think anyone can actually win that fight.
Yeah,
The answer's Batman.
the answer is Batman.
The audience wins. You got gentlemen right in the back wall.
What are your thoughts on the 2017 Power Rangers reboot movie in theaters?
I knew that was gonna come up.
So,
Wait, what movie?
The 2017 Power Rangers movie.
What
Grown
movie?
collectively. Exactly.
You know the one that Bryan Cranston was a giant floating head in?
Never heard of it.
so all the jokes aside, I will say, I actually did enjoy it. I liked how they, yeah, you can go that way, like the way they did when you went at me, but
Little bit.
but no, but like being somebody who's a day one and grew up with Power Rangers in the beginning, like they did a nice little nostalgia kick in there. I thought they did a pretty good job of trying to mix it up a little bit and trying to give a little bit more depth to characters and stuff like that. I personally enjoyed it. That's me. Others will disagree, and I'm perfectly fine with that.
So I have no nostalgia goggles for Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. That being said, there is one good thing I will say about that movie, and his name is Billy. Not Billy Cranston, I mean the character Billy. He was written really well. He's the only character I didn't want to punch in the face, so that's a plus. You think I'm kidding. But I will say that other than that, it didn't feel like a Power Rangers movie. It kind of felt like the awkward Breakfast Club with superpowers.
I think honestly what they're trying to do is just reestablish characters to this generation.
Let's be honest.
But you don't need to cash out on nostalgia to do it. You could have done an original script with a new kind of theme and still done a good movie with it. Because the purpose, it was sort of like it was claiming that it wanted to love Power Rangers while kind of trampling on Power Rangers.
It was trying to be too edgy, and I didn't like how some of the characters, like for instance, like Kim, like her whole thing, I was just like, that's just gross. I don't like that.
Also, who designed those suits? Or I'm sorry, that armor?
Yeah.
Like Iron Man did better on half
Okay, I guess it's older.
The Zords would have been cool if they weren't in there for like 2 minutes.
At least it's better than the 1993 movie.
That's not a high bar. That's like
I
saying
didn't
it's
say it
better
was.
than the Turbo movie.
I never said it was.
That's like, yeah, that's like saying one piece of crap is better than another.
That's
Fair point.
accurate. Yes, sir.
So I imagine a lot of people actually.
By the way, I have to say something. I do appreciate you standing up and asking your questions. I do appreciate it.
I imagine a lot of you have actually met these people in real life. And
Yes.
shared their experience. What is the worst negative experience you've had with actually meeting with Power Rangers stars?
I have never had a bad one. I'll go ahead and
I
say it.
Your worst. So out of all those that you've had, the good one.
I don't really know.
Or your
so
best if you can't.
So it's weird for Brian and I because we actually did travel out to Power Morphin in 2016, and we met a lot. And that's a good question. It's a hard question. I'm trying to rack my brain like out of all of them. I know everyone's been crap on Meg Force. Andrew Gray is a friend of mine, and he was short. But so it just makes things awkward for me. But actually, honestly, one person I would say would be Kerrigan Mahan, who was the voice of Goldar, because I remember doing an interview with him, and he would actually cut me off every time I tried to pronounce his name. And as Ben, you know this from all the podcasts and we do, that is actually one of the most irritating things for us because we're trying to like correct us on the air and go, no, this is how it properly says. That way the listeners know that that's the proper way to be said. But I think I had to do like 6 takes with him just to try and get an interview with him.
I've got 2 really cool Power Rangers stories. Cool Power Rangers stories. The first one was from a convention that me and my friends set up. We were live broadcast for Belgium. And I got the opportunity to host a panel with main rest in peace Robert Axelrod. And all weekend I wanted to interview Robert on our show, but we weren't allowed access to him by the rules of press. So on Sunday, as everyone's packing up, Robert walks by the table and it's like, what are you doing? Oh, we've been live broadcasting the whole show. He's like, and you didn't ask me for an interview. Why? Like really offended I hadn't asked him. I'm like, so what else? And he turned right round to the press director and went, I'm going to talk to them for an hour. Deal with it. It was great.
Wow.
That was the intervention of my last time. Yeah, that was great because
And my second cool Power Ranger story is I used to help organise the VA Comic Con down in Richmond, and we had Austin St. John as a guest, as one of our shows, and just out of like being nice, we invited him to the after party. Not expecting for a second to show up. Slap bang in the middle of the after party, there's a knock on the door. And someone runs out front to try and find him. Opens the door. There's nothing. Then he comes back and he's like, no, must have been an injury. And Austin's walked around the side of the house. He goes, I'm not a ninja, I'm a Power Ranger. And then he joined us for like a lot of Cards Against Humanity.
That's awesome.
I
have a good and bad story. Not a bad story, but kind of like a negative story. So I met Jason David Frank in 2014 at New York Comic Con. And it wasn't a bad interaction or anything. I think he just thought I was getting an autograph from my brother and that I wasn't a fan or something. And in his defense, I was in line for like 2 hours or something like that. It was a long ass line. So it wasn't quite great. I've had the chance to chat with Karen Ashton twice now. I also met the, I always blank on his name, the Blue Time Force Ranger, Michael Capone, who's also really, really nice. But Karen Ashton actually had a really nice chat right before the pandemic at GalaxyCon Richmond. We talked about the unfortunate reality of Power Rangers not being unionized. It was a really good conversation, and have you guys, raise your hand if you had the chance to meet her today? Okay, a few of you. She's so nice! She's just so nice!
Well, one thing I will say is that, you know, I've met a lot of Power Rangers and a lot of villains, and for the most part, they've all been really cool. Like, I got awesome stories with like Nathan Gaines, who was Messigog, and but like the number, he was. But the thing that can really ruin things sometimes isn't the Rangers themselves; it's the agents.
Yes. I do have one brief little story. I will tell you one of the coolest things, and it's not necessarily Power Rangers, it's actually a Super Sentai story. In 2000,
Power Rangers.
I get that, but so we when we went to Power Morphin, I got to meet House in St. John. I also got to meet Yuta Mochizuki, who was Geki in Ranger, which was what season 1 was adapted into. And I literally woke up on my birthday because I don't know. I apparently forgot that I had sent him a friend request. I think I like butt dial or something, because you know how that happens on Facebook. Apparently he had accepted it, and then he also sent, "Hey, happy birthday, Brian." And he sent me this photo. I was like, "Are you kidding me?" Like,
Nice.
so that's probably the coolest Ranger story I got. So
Anyone else?
The young lady with the green hair.
And then we've got the gentleman in the purple.
yes.
I have a question. The I Have News movie, as my family calls it, it's what got me the Power Rangers, but I don't understand why you hate it so much.
So first of all, thank you so much for that question. For those that didn't hear it, this young lady's gateway Ranger movie was the Ivan Ooze Power Rangers movie, and it's. Have you rewatched it recently? Out of curiosity.
No.
Okay. When was the last time you watched it?
Do it.
Hold on.
About 2018.
Okay, so not too long ago. I will say that like I never watched it beginning to end, and as it's a little unfair to judge to an extent I would say to judge a medium meant for kids as opposed to adults.
Yeah.
However, as an adult, you kind of have to still look at it as a piece of work, right? And the writing was really weird for it. It also I don't think helped anybody that they were shooting the show while they were shooting the movie, which is just terrible in my opinion.
Take a break, for God's sake.
Yeah. And so the writing just wasn't great. And like Ivan Ooze is like a funny villain, but like he was never intimidating. He was never a scary villain. Like you guys remember where the first time you saw Lord Zed, like that menacing music, and that like you're just like, oh man, this is a bad guy. Ivan Ooze, you're like, oh cool, it's a purple people eater person. So it's hard to look at something like that as an adult and try to look at it through a kid's lens. I never had the kid's lens, so I couldn't really stand the movie. It had really good parts, just terrible writing.
Whereas I annoyed my mom and taking me
And
to see it when it
bad-
came to theaters.
There was also some really bad fight choreography.
If I am 100% honest, as a gateway into Power Rangers, it's not that bad.
Yeah.
But if it is not the first Power Rangers thing you experience, it's not the best Power Rangers it can be.
It's a good point.
When we reviewed it for the podcast, which hasn't come out yet, this episode, I said that half the problems with the show, with the movie, is you could see the budget, right? Like you could see the budget, like what they did to the command center and the suits and the Zords look completely CG.
And that poor person dressed as Alpha,
Yeah.
who couldn't breathe in the actual suit.
They didn't know what they wanted to do with the movie. They didn't know if they wanted to make like a TV show or if they wanted to make it a movie. And it gets pulled in so many directions that it can't focus on one. That's how I thought.
Like when they're, you know, when they go to the planet and they meet Dulce and all that, it's like, I forgot just how, like, I got whiplash the first time I watched that.
There's also that
because I was like,
moment
oh my
they'll
god.
say, there's a moment that they'll say, they're like, and now you have new Jesse powers. And they never use them.
Yep.
We get the gentleman in the top
Yes.
half first, and then we'll come to you, sir.
Hey guys, so my favorite Six Ranger is Ryan from Lightspeed Rescue.
Oh, great choice.
Good choice.
I want to ask who is you guys' favorite Six Ranger?
Ooh.
Well, I guess I can't say Tommy.
You can.
Well, when you got the Fighting Six Ranger, do you mean any Ranger that came after the initial one?
Yeah.
Well, mine's easy. Arden.
Yep.
I've always been partial to the White Ranger in I choose Trento is I really love the story about him and his father and something like that, and that was something that really gravitated to me.
Such a good villain.
Yeah.
My choice is gonna be Eric from Time Force. Just because I like to be different. I liked the fact that he was kind of snooty at first, and then I like characters that I hate at first, and then you make me like them. That never happened with Tommy, but it happened with other characters.
That's why he liked me.
But I never disliked you first. So he was fun. I liked the weird dynamic he had with Wes. I liked that at first he kind of wasn't doing his own thing, and he didn't automatically decide, like, oh, I'm a ranger too, so I have to join the team, which is kind of what the Rangers logic was, right? And I like that when we meet them in Wild Force, they're actually friends and coworkers, and so they sort of, I wish we'd see more of the transition a little bit, and gotten a little bit more into like what Wes and Eric's dynamic was before the events of the show, but it was fun. I really liked it.
I guess, like, you know, I gotta say season 1 Tommy, because, yeah, I mean, honestly, like, watching that as a kid, like, my mind was blown. It was like, you know, not only is there a Sixth Ranger, but he's evil, and he's like, you know. So.
Yeah, he's still in the front.
And then I
Yeah,
made that
I
again
said that earlier.
so.
And
So
then
you-
it'll go to you.
Okay.
And then I'll go to that.
Okay.
Oh, so I go second?
Yeah,
No, no,
first.
You go now.
Thanks. So I've been sort of wondering, how do you guys feel about series of Power Rangers sort of going forward? Do you think they should be sort of one-off insofar as they're in their own isolated sort of pocket, or do you think there's value in sort of telling more long-form stories season over season?
I like the idea of long form.
Long form, because I think the issue that happens with a lot of seasons is in like remember what season was it? It was Ninja Storm when they get their movies. They're like, I told you, Power Rangers are real, and we're just like, there was a
They just
literal
invaded Earth.
invasion of Earth, right? So like, I don't mind some seasons that are a little bit more isolated, like RPM, right?
Right.
But I think when you're in a franchise that is almost 30 years old, you can't ignore it. And you shouldn't ignore it. I think you should definitely minimize how much you incorporate, because then it becomes too much nostalgia, and too much reference fest and stuff like that, that the focus goes off the core Rangers of your season. But you shouldn't ignore it, so long form for sure.
And I'm not gonna give you any spoilers, but maybe check out Dino Fury.
Hey guys, in the back, thank you so much. There's plenty of seats, so if you don't feel like standing, you're totally cool to stand, but if you wanna sit, you can sit.
Do you mean long form stories like over several seasons different? Or do you mean like Mighty Morphin, which is like 3 seasons long?
I mean it more in the sense how Mighty Morphin stretches in space, where you sort of have a
Oh,
Like an overarching
Right.
thing with different teams.
I would like to see. I would like to see like the Power Rangers cinematic universe, where we're not necessarily seeing Rangers going from team to team to team to team to team, but there is an internal continuity amongst the seasons, which I think they're making a move towards. What with the dimension travel devices they gave out, Ninja Steel, and some of the stuff that's happened in Beast Morphers. But I don't necessarily want to see Rangers going from team to team to team to team to team. But I would like an internal continuity. Yeah, I love that. So now we come to this gentleman. Yeah, this question.
Okay, it's really a question about, not about the show, it's more like, I think, one of the favorite things about Howling Rangers, like the doors, like night doors. And I think maybe
Yeah,
somewhat.
the Lightning collection is essentially what the Legacy line is now.
Yeah, I seen the figures, yeah, they're pulling all that, I don't want to see accurate, I want to see doors, I want to see.
I do too.
Cool updated versions of other Megazords, like,
But there's a
We might
problem
get there
with that.
eventually.
There's a problem with that though, and the problem is that they're gonna go right to Mighty Morphin right off the bat.
But they've already put out the Dino Megazord in a couple different ways.
Yeah,
Can
and
we let Mighty Morphin go just like a little bit? Just like a little bit, not
if they were to come out with another, if they were to come out with another like show, like in space or something like that, as the first of the Zords,
Yeah.
like I think that would be a lot better for a Lightning collection for Zords.
It's not gonna happen, like, how do you-
the African or boys, new updated versions of the Megazords, I like, the right Megazord Power German Gold, and after a double Megazord Power State, and afterwards, Power, Galaxy, and all the Megazords from, like, Justice, I mean, so cool to see that awesome updated versions of those Megazords.
It would be cool to see, but we have to be realistic here, right? Which is.
Sorry.
No,
No, you're
No,
fine.
no.
But the realistic thing is, if it's not Mighty Morphin, Hasbro don't care. Take a look at the Lightning collection, right? There's like 8 different versions of every Mighty Morphin Ranger. There isn't a single Lightspeed Rescue Ranger. There's no Mystic Force Rangers.
No SPD yellow.
No SPD Yellow.
I believe that's coming out soon.
No, there's no Jungle Fury Rangers. There's like everything that is going to drive Hasbro is the almighty dollar, and the almighty dollar rests solely with Mighty Morphin.
I will say real fast though, sorry. There's potential there because, you know, Hasbro also does Transformers. And, you know, I think a good litmus test is take a look at how well the Dino Fury Zords are gonna come out, because like on the Fan Footage Fridays, like they just revealed like a while ago, hey, this is what they're gonna look like. And some people are even saying, hey, wow, this is better than Bandai Japan, just in the build and the sculpt. And I'm like, well, if you've got the guys who are working on Transformer toys, working on Power Ranger toys, and you put them solely on Zords, you could sell tons of units if you do it the right way. That's when I think we have to see how it's gonna work.
The gentleman in the prize shirt.
Hello.
Hi.
So, early on in the series, there would be crossover episodes with Power Rangers from the previous season, and meet up Power Rangers in the current series. For me personally, I have 2 favorites. Mine is when the Time Force Rangers meet with the Wild Force Rangers.
That's a great one.
My second one is the Forever Red,
And Forever Red.
yeah.
We need a second
for you,
Forever Red.
what would be your favorite crossover episode?
Oh man, I gotta say, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think Time Force and Wild Force crossover is one of the best crossovers because you get such an excellent interaction between the Rangers. And nobody's chasing a little girl half the episode. But I also really like I also really like the In Space Lost Galaxy crossover.
That's the one I was gonna go with.
Sorry. Just because it's so, it again shows like the Rangers moving on, but it also shows the current team really well. And you know, Kendricks at the end, you're just like, I can't believe they did that. Like your jaw drops to the floor.
A Power Rangers crossover should do one thing very, very well. And what it should do very, very well is highlight both things. And Power Rangers crossover did that best 3 or 4 years. Wild Force and Time Force crossover. By far the best crossover they've ever done.
So good. Brian, do you have a favorite?
I mean, Forever Red is, you know, that's, I don't know, I guess, I haven't gotten to that one yet, so. But yeah, for right now, yeah, I'll say Forever Red.
I'm gonna go to this gentleman right here. We need to get more people on this side real quick.
Yeah.
We'll get you in the orange next, okay, bud?
I was wondering what your favorite group of Eagle Power Rangers from A2 were.
Oh, it's definitely the ones from season 2, huh? They were the greatest ones of all time.
It's gotta be Cycle Rangers, right?
Oh, yeah.
There's only one right answer, and Ben just gave
There you
it.
go.
Great question, though.
That's my answer too.
Best evil baseball was led by a girl.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty cool.
Gentleman in orange.
I heard you mention we have Red Red too.
Yeah.
How would that be possible? Because Digital and Red is our guy.
They'll do it like the same way they did the original Forever Red, because they did have the actual actor for that. So, I mean, there's always ways to work around it. I mean, we all just saw with Beast Morphers where they brought back like Austin St. John, but they didn't bring back everyone else. They just kept them in the suit. So there are always going to be workarounds.
Keep him in the suit, maybe also.
And keep in mind, it'll also depend on like budget, on who wants to come back, who is able to come back, that kind of thing. So it gets a little bit tricky. You serve in the, yes, with a hammer.
Do you think maybe about time that we've had 30 years, maybe start and just say, okay, we're gonna just sort of reboot the whole thing?
Absolutely not.
You can't do that with television. If Hasbro, if what is rumored that they're gonna do is that they're gonna create this new movie and have it kind of kickstart this, as Ben put it, a cinematic universe where it's between TV shows and movies, that's the way you're gonna do it. But the way the current kids TV show is at right now, you just kind of stick to that formula for right now, but like maybe create that secondary universe for like the cinema.
With the 2017 movie, I kind of look at it like the Godzilla franchise. Like the first Godzilla movie was but the second one was really good. So
I was
Like
actually,
the 14 version?
I was actually really pulling for them to create the second Power Rangers movie, but the problem is that Lionsgate and Saban shot themselves in the foot by the way they did the release, because by the time it actually released out in Japan and China, it had actually already been a month in between the American release and the Japan-China release. So all that revenue that they were hoping for from Japan and China never came because it was already torrented over there. So, and that's what actually eventually killed having a second movie, which could have brought us more development.
I think we also might have already had a soft reset of the TV show with again, in Ninja Steel, where Wes gives people the transportation devices to go across dimensions and things. That's their first step to making sure everything is concordance. And I just think it might have already been a bit of a soft reset.
You sir over here.
We'll get you next.
Hi. Do you think there would possibly be a possibility of, in the future, getting a more budgetized version of these, I can't remember the handmade, like YouTube was, I think they were trying to do like Shattered Grid.
Like Scorpion Ring kind of a thing?
Oh, you're talking about the Bad and the
Bad and
Sons.
the Sons, yeah.
Well, right now they're working on Jason David Frank's Legend of the White Dragon, which I'm sorry, I love Jason, I've met him several times. It looks like trash.
Oh, no.
Like straight garbage trash.
If I remember, Michael Capone just started his own production company very recently. So anything is possible, but it takes the right producer and the right studio and the right writer. And we've seen with Power Rangers that you really need good writers sometimes, actually a lot of the time. So I would love to see that. I think there's a lot of actors that care so much about the fans and care so much about the show. So you could definitely do that.
You in the blue, and then we'll get you in the red shirt.
Well, yeah, when Power Rangers they ended, I thought that was gonna be the end of the era, but then they.
It's supposed to be.
That's what all Zords doesn't get mentioned again until you actually get made, of course.
I do apologize, we have about 10-ish minutes, so I wanna give, anybody else that wants to ask a question.
Okay, so real quick, we're gonna go to the guy in the red shirt, because I already said, we go to him, then we'll go to you in the white shirt, and we'll go to you.
Welcome to our lightning
rapid fire.
Please.
So I've seen clips of like Sentai and all of the things that they've had and Kamen Rider, and their jokes are hilarious. But the problem is when you go to the writing and jokes of that release, it's kind of bland and it suffers a lot. I feel like they could do better, not only with better writing, but also with choreography. Everything just seems better over there. Do you think we'll reach to a point where we start taking those?
I would challenge your opinion on the fight scenes being better over there. Go ahead and watch any of the Disney era of the show. The fight scenes are phenomenal.
Yeah, I will give him that. I think the major difference in the writing is because I'm also a Super Sentai guy, and I also watch Power Rangers too. Is Power Rangers is targeted directly for kids, and the fact that they have that built-in fan base from people like me who were 6 years old and going to the movies, and I even went to the live show in Denver when I was a kid, and like they had the giant blow up like Lord Zen.
Rapid fire.
Sorry. I just think it's not going to happen because it's targeted towards kids. So it's probably not going to
You
happen.
sit right there, and then the young lady right in front.
Yeah, do you ever have to take a story apart?
I'm gonna get moved by my fellow panelists, but for me, it's always gonna be medieval. I mean, think about it as a kid, like watching that.
Mommy needs to shut up and get me a sandwich.
Wow.
Yes, sir.
Honestly, I really love the entire story of Andros and Corone, and basically the entire season of In Space, and that entire arc of her sort of coming back to the fold and being like, oh, I want to be good again, and then getting, Borgified. Yeah.
Yeah, agree with you.
The entire season of Jungle Fury, because it's one long story arc.
Alright, and then, you alone? For Dino Fury?
No,
Oh, for the movies.
The official Power Ranger movies or the 2017? Both of them. Okay.
I mean, you had your cliches, you had to. I mean, Turbo literally led into the new season, so.
Except for that awkward moment where Cat transforms into like the Zeo Ranger and then into
Apparently,
Yeah, we
Zeo
know
Ranger is only one.
I don't think you could do a Power Rangers movie justice without in-jokes and homages to the TV show.
Yeah.
Hold on, we have time for
Just
one
go.
more question. It's gonna go to
The Spider-Man
Chef.
I think,
Oh.
Spider-Man Doctor.
Dr. Spidey. Dr. Spidey
Oh,
is
Deadpool.
Yeah.
Alright.
Quick
Dr.
question.
Deadpool, please.
Just a quick question for you. The Morphin in front of you, legacy or legacy?
Legacy, and then.
Mine's lightning, but it's not, it's over there somewhere.
Lightning.
And, as part of our wrap up, we were supposed to do more Morphers.
We weren't gonna take a picture in front of her, we were gonna do it on our own.
No, but I wanna do something.
Behind closed doors.
Hey, I wanna add something to it.
Rangers after dark.
I wanna add something to it. Everyone that is in a Power Ranger cosplay, so the black and yellow Ranger, the silver Wolf Ranger, the green Ranger over there, we want you guys in it.
If you are in Power Ranger cosplay, basically get your butt up here, please.
We want you.
That being said, before we finish,
Yes.
finish,
I want to put that out there because your guys' cosplays are phenomenal, and I want that in our picture.
man in the red, stand up. That is what an awesome con volunteer looks like. There are hundreds of them walking around this convention center, giving their time this weekend, so we can do cool stuff like this, right? And it is an absolutely thankless task. They get blamed for everything they can't control. They get all kinds of hate spewed towards them. I should know I was one once. It is an absolutely thankless task. Please, 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 before you leave the convention, today, tomorrow, whenever, find a red shirt and just say thank you.
Thank you.
Not that one.
Just in general. But also, can everybody who has Twitter on their phones, please take out your phones and go onto Twitter and type in @VFTG_PR and hit that follow button. That is @VFTG_PR. It's okay, if you want to come up after the panel, I can show you. That's, once again, that's VFTG_PR. We thank you kindly.
And that being said, it's time for our wrap up, I feel.
So we'll start.
Very good.
Excellent, thank you.
So with that, Brian, where can the people find you on the social media?
You guys can find me on Twitter @OneDrunkGeek. It's the name of my beer show that I host on another studio called Castaway Studios. You can catch me over there at CastawayStudios.com. Be sure to check out my other podcast, Boldly Going Nowhere. And you can also find me on Instagram @Draken22, DRAKKEN. And yes, I had that name before Lord Draken, so.
Alright, and you can find me. So first of all, anybody on Tumblr here? My condolences, but you can find me on Tumblr at geekgirl101.tumblr.com. And you can find me, Sasha Kaplan, on Twitter @BPCaptain. It is a photo on Tumblr, it is a photo of Billy Kaplan, the greatest superhero of all time. And on Twitter, you can find one of the other greatest superheroes of all time, Kitty Pryde is my icon, so you can't miss me.
Hey Ben,
Yeah,
where can everyone find you on social media?
lots of places. But to save time, I will merely say you can find me on Twitter @BombTGoldfish. And you can find me, I've got a Power Rangers column that I write. As I said, I've only been watching the show for about 2 years, but as I watch seasons, I write upload my thoughts on the season. You can find that at thxtcotton.com/Ben's-journey, because Mike doesn't know how to take space.
I thought we were going to do this.
Too late, keep going.
Okay, anyways. And then you can find me on Twitter @LilyMom75. I'll probably be dropping stuff on Twitter too. You can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/X75Productions. Twitch, I might actually start doing some Power Rangers Legacy War at some point.
Nice.
I'm waiting for the new one that's going to have all the DLC included in it. You can find me on Twitch at twitch.tv/TheMichaelX75, and everything is on my website at txhthockey.com. And for the show specific, it's /VFTG. And season 2 will be dropping very soon.
Done,
It's
done,
fully recorded.
done.
Yeah, it's fully recorded. It only took us about a year because of my health problems.
And I
but
was
it's
like,
coming up soon.
Basically, there was a lot of shenanigans that happened, but it's done, and we're very happy for you to listen to it. Definitely give it a listen. There's some really great individual episodes, and there's some really hilarious group episodes. So at this time, if we can have all of the Power Rangers. I'm sorry, I forgot about the outro.
There is an outro we like to do. If you were here for the rest of the panel, you have my portion of it. I just want to say thank you to everybody who's here today. It's been an absolute pleasure being inducted into the Power Rangers fandom. Absolute superstars. And that being said, guys, gals, and non-binary pals, in the words of the 16th President of the United States, Abraham Lincoln, be excellent to each other. And party on non-gender-specific honorifics.
And until next time, be sure to grab your Power Warriors and your Power Coins.
And may the power protect you.
And that is not spandex!
Thank you!
Thank you so much!
Power Rangers, move my love.
Is anybody handy with a phone to take photos? That would be so kind. You, sir, with your fancy, yes, I saw your hand first.
Yeah, but.
Oh, a scammer? Oh my god, that is brilliant. I love that. I'm gonna hand you my phone.